mindset library will be in the public domain in the next week. So you guys will have access to all the history. It'll be dated. You can go back, check things out. We are also pulling shorts. So by the way, welcome everybody to Monday Morning Mindset. And we're kicking off the week again. We are in Never Split the Difference. Chris Voss, we are in chapter 3. That we're going to hear some chapter 2 and 1, I suspect, as well, because new nuggets are coming up as you guys are getting caught up on the reading. And I was letting you guys know all these content's getting in the public domain. And here's the great thing for you. You speak up. It's powerful. It's impactful. We are going to create a video short for you. So literally the way I've set this up to record is it's always recording the live speaker. So your participation here very well may give you clips of content that you have to do nothing about except point people to my YouTube channel or pull them, make yourself a copy, and also put it on your channel. I've got my team on the backside doing that for you, which means you got to speak up. You got to engage. So with that being said, as always, I've got all kinds of important stuff highlighted out of here, and I want to hear from you. Josh, the most important piece. I was thinking of you when I highlighted it here in chapter 3. We'll see if you pick up on it. That being said, guys, I want to hear from you first. What are you taking away out of Never Split the Difference?
Well, obviously, the thing that stands out in chapter 3 is label it. In other words, go run directly at the fear that's standing in the way. Just go directly at it, address it. And the way he did it was really interesting because he seems to do it as a question. And he uses that kind of terminology. It seems like you are feeling whatever you're feeling. So, and he has 3 of them listed. I forget what page it's on, but
it's on page 56.
56. I was just turning there. It seems like, it sounds like, it looks like, but not. I'm hearing that. It seems like you. It seems like you are. Not I'm hearing that. And that was a real big takeaway for me.
Yeah. And to go forward with that, it's because the power is not just what you've just asked them, but it puts it in a different place in their mind, that they now go from a fear to they now have to justify the logic of the fear. And they have to go to a different place in their brain, which changes who they are in the fear mode. They're not in fear anymore. They're in the more logic part of their brain.
So let's talk about these 3 a minute, because there's a big piece here, and I'm going to see if I can pull this out of Camacho. Because these 3 labels, first of all, it seems like, it sounds like, it looks like they're all setting up to be about the other person, which is the key component. If it's right. I feel, I think, I see, well, that's about you, and that puts a block in them. So it's why it's set up that way. Though these 3, Camacho, it seems like, it sounds like, it looks like, how could we plus when we select each one of these? Where else does this come from that you and I have played in before?
Well, that has to do with how people learn. If they're an auditory learner, we say it sounds like. If somebody understands things visually, you know, they like to see pictures, right? We say it looks like. And we start communicating. It looks like, right? I see what you're saying, right? Things of that nature. The it seems is more of a generic. If we don't know, it seems like. And when we use words like that, if somebody says, "Well, that's not what I said," we can always come back and say, "Well, I didn't say that's what you said. I just said that's what it seems like to me. What exactly are you meaning by that?" And we give them an opportunity to clarify, because one of the great negotiating tactics is to allow other people to correct you. That is huge. That it feels like it gives them power when they tell you you're wrong, basically.
Yeah, it seems like also may fall into the kinesthetic learner, the touchy-feely, which, by the way, a lot of people fall in that piece as well. Here's the key with this is you're listening, because we know from chapter 2, we're going to be present and we're going to be active listeners. If they use visual words, then you know they're a visual learner. And that's a big part of the population. An even bigger part is kinesthetic. So they learn by doing, and they usually talk in feeling language. And the smallest group of the population is the auditory learners. And they'll talk about, I hear you. They'll say something like that, and you'll pick up in their language that is their pattern. This is a higher level of ninja work that Camacho's got that skill set in. So that's why I wanted to call him on this piece. What else?
Let me just toss in too. If you know somebody that loves to listen to audiobooks instead of reading them, that's a clue that they're an auditory learner. And in another word here, it said, it seems like, it sounds like, it looks like, it feels like. Getting back to the kinesthetic, because when you feel something, it can be touchy, right? If you're touching a book.
Absolutely. A great additional one. Thank you, Camacho. What else you guys pulling out of the content?
So are we not going to talk about chapter 2, or have we moved on to 3?
Here's the great thing. Whenever we've moved on, the past still counts. What do you got, Stacy?
Yay! So I love this on page 28. First of all, I got to give it up to Chris Voss, because I had said to my husband, I go, listen, many people who are really skilled at what they do aren't very good at verbalizing it or writing it, becoming a writer. But I love the whole last paragraph of the bottom of page 28. Really from the middle, instead of prioritizing your argument, in fact, instead of doing any thinking at all in the early goings about what you're going to say, like a listing presentation, make your sole and all-encompassing focus the other person and what they have to say. In that mode of true active listening, aided by the tactics you'll learn in the following chapters, you'll disarm your counterpart. You'll make them feel safe. And I feel like when you go on a listing appointment or a buyer-broker, relationship, like that kind of appointment, that we talk about ourselves too much, and we're like, we've been in the business for 25 years. We're really good. You're in your best hands. Like literally just forgetting all that crap that you have memorized and just talking to them like a normal human being. And then the last paragraph is this: the goal is to identify what your counterparts actually need, monetarily, emotionally, or otherwise, and get them feeling safe enough to talk and talk and talk some more about what they want. The latter will help you discover the former. Wants are easy to talk about, presenting the aspiration of getting our way and sustaining any illusion of control we have as we begin to negotiate. Needs, I thought this was interesting. Needs imply survival, the very minimum required to make us act, and so make us vulnerable. But neither wants nor needs are where we start. It begins with listening, making it about the other people, validating their emotions, and creating enough trust and safety for a real conversation to begin. I love that. Like, I know that. We all know that in this room. But how many people are thinking about what they're going to say in retaliation to what the consumer is saying? Like, instead of just, you really have to be a ninja to have so much confidence in yourself that you know your deal so well that you could say it backwards and forwards, but you make it about them because they're going to tell you the answer. That's what I needed to be reminded of.
You know what's funny, Stacy? When you were just saying about, we walk into a listing presentation and, I've won all these awards. I've sold this many houses, blah, 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 blah. Can you imagine Chris Voss going into a negotiation with some hostages and saying, hey, my name's Chris Voss. I have done, 2,800 hostage negotiations. I've only failed on 3. I was rookie of the year hostage negotiator, blah, 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 blah. That would just be hilarious.
That's right. Yeah.
And yet that's what we do on every listing presentation, right? Or a lot of things.
Go, Miss Celeste. What do you got, my dear?
Where it came in, I don't remember because it was either chapter 2 or 3. But one of the things they've talked really clearly about is slow it down.
Yes.
And when you listen to someone,
It's page 29, chapter 2. Yes.
thank you. Page 29, chapter 2, you've got this opportunity that when you slow it down, all of a sudden the pace goes from the frantic exchange to, wait a minute, this person is actually going to take the time to not only listen, but maybe they'll ask me another question that will trigger something else that I wanted to talk about, but I didn't get that feeling when we first started. And so our focus should be, as Stacy just said, you're listening, but are you really listening? How slow are you taking that conversation where someone says something about, maybe they've talked about their son and he's just going off to school. Are you going deeper on that? Because that matters. They just brought it up. How much are you asking instead of, as I am always at fault at, sometimes I just like to talk. And I got to shut up and start asking more. Ask more. Slow it down.
Ask more, slow it down. And the last rule of this labeling piece, silence. So once you've labeled something, as we talked about, it seems like you're a little tense about our conversation today. And then let the silence do the heavy lifting.
So Celeste, it's worse than that. It's not that you have to slow it down. You have to shut up altogether. Oh no.
I got to get a piece of tape.
You actually have to get comfortable with the silence and let it hang there. And here's the fun part. When you go into silence, can it be uncomfortable for you? Yes or yes?
Yes.
Guess who else it's uncomfortable for?
The other
counterpart.
And they will usually, because they're not trained to the same level you have, they don't have the same knowledge you're picking up here, they'll start going. And it's going to be so much fun for me to test this afternoon as I am hanging out with a couple hundred agents. It's going to be a lot of fun. What else you guys have?
Hey Russ, I'll jump in there. I was kind of up late watching a basketball game. I didn't see Auburn play. Ironically,
yeah, that
was
was
odd.
Other significant challenges yesterday with Auburn.
And then I got to watch a Tennessee game that was really good. Robert, I was thinking about you. I was thinking about Barnes getting revenge on the team that fired him. That I've never had a better coach since Barnes since he left. But I want to go before that, and I actually will stay on topic. And I don't know what you pegged me for already, Russ. What I'm struggling with is not as much even the silence or the two-way communication. What I've been trying to draw out is what one-way communication can you do to create a two-way? And the labeling and the tactical empathy. I mean, if you notice on that one story, he's like, they didn't have a phone. They weren't talking. I just talked for 6 hours in my DJ voice. And finally they walked out. So that was a one-way communication. And it seems what I'm having an issue with is, and this is especially true with either recruitment or even production, when you have these leads that come in, when you have people that reach out, yes, they're reaching out, but they may not be reaching out for a two-way communication conversation, or at least if they may not be ready for that yet. So what I really took from this is trying to figure out through both tactical empathy and labeling how I can get them to open up more. Just at the beginning, I'll worry about some of the other aspects of it when it's actually a two-way conversation, but getting from a one-way to a two-way.
Well, I'm
Next
going to
chapter
let
is gonna-
Camacho go first, and then I have one that I may want you guys, and especially you, Josh, to play with. Camacho, what do you got? I saw the.
I'm going to say wait till the next chapter. It answers that. Chapter 4 goes into that, the power of no, rephrasing the way we ask questions.
Negotiation starts at no, right?
I'll give you a quick situation. When you get on the phone and we call somebody, what do we typically ask them? We typically ask them, hey, do you have a couple minutes to talk? And in a split second, that person, a million things are going through their mind. They're like, well, if I had a couple seconds to talk, do I want to talk to you? If I have a couple seconds, do I talk to you? Do I want to talk to you about what you want to talk about? So there's a million things that are going through their mind. And when we say yes,
So let's save that, Camacho, for tomorrow.
Okay.
Because there is one in today's that also might lead into it. And that is the first step of it's page 65. The first step of doing so is listing every terrible thing your counterpart could say about you. The accusation audit. So if you've got somebody not responding, I would love to see you guys play with a video text of all of the negative stories that a consumer might have about a real estate agent. And just, you might think this. And just lay it out there. Worst is they don't respond. By the way, I'm going to play with this on the recruiting piece. One of my texts that I have sent historically is the passive aggressive text. That's what I call it. I love calling, you hate answering. That's the whole text. And I've gotten people to respond to that. I love this concept on this accusation audit of just going through what's going through their head that they're not calling you back. What's going through their head that they're not picking up. And just stick that in a video and throw it to them. You know what? I have reached out a couple times, haven't had a chance to get back, and it might be you think real estate agents are just trying to sell you something. You think they're actually not going to do the work that you expect them to do. You think they're not going to listen. Whatever those things are, lay them out, and worst case scenario, they still don't respond, right? Let's play with it. Let's see if anybody has something that works at a high level that we can share with each other tomorrow because we played with the accusation audit today. What else you guys pulling out of the content?
Putting ourselves in the other person's situation. That is something that sometimes with real estate is not easy to do because the situation may vary. That is like more of a play-in, but I'm sure that we can pull some general situations in there that we can kind of address with this negotiation thing. And just thinking about those situations might help us asking the right questions to the other person. That's one thing that I never thought about because, everybody wants to sell, but then we don't ask the right questions to get to the emotional portion of why they're selling. So that is something that I need to work on.
And Mariella, you're hitting it right on the head. And that's a huge aha I want to make sure everybody gets, because in any residential sale, there is always something else more significant going on. No one goes, you know what? I want to sell. I want to clean my house and prep it and rearrange it and rearrange my life and maintain it perfect. So strangers can come in and look at it. Nobody thinks that. There's always something else, a marriage, a divorce, birth of kids, kids going off to college, death of parent, parent that might needs additional help, so they're going to move in together. There's always a significant emotion going on behind the move. And you're absolutely right that we have to dig in and inquire and ask and be willing to go there so we can better serve them. Mariella, you had something else.
Yes, and it doesn't work only on it doesn't happen only on the selling part, you know. Sometimes I've had clients that cannot pull a trigger on a house because of something that I can clearly see, but they don't see it. And usually is a man buying a house to live with the girlfriend, but you can tell that the man's eyes light up when he talks about his ex-wife. For instance, you know, I had several of those. And it's like, oh, I get it. And I had to pull them and say, okay, guys, you're falling off the wagon. Let's be focused. Why are you buying this house? Tell me, you know, talk about these memories that you want to build together and things like that. And it's like, oh my, I'm not a realtor. I'm like kind of a psychologist working here, but I can clearly see what the emotions are because you're seeing the people, you know, which is an advantage in compare with all this hostage situation. But hostage. But the making people talk or be aware of their own emotions is a challenge, and it has been in the buyer side for me because they don't pull the trigger, and I know exactly that it's not because of the window sill was chewed by the dog, you know, and it go, oh, they have to fix that. No, it's something else.
You will get it on both sides of the transaction. I love that you are raising this awareness piece. And again, you get there by asking questions and letting the silence do the heavy lifting. That's going to be your best tool. Who else has something from the content?
Rereading this, it's about emotions. Emotions are a tool. And, you know, how many times have we said, oh my gosh, I can't get any place with this person. They're too emotional. That's awesome. That's awesome because that's what's going to move people. You know, logic makes you think, emotions make you act. So there's a sentence in here I'm looking for. It says like emotional intelligence. This is emotional intelligence on steroids.
That's our problem, Robert, right? We had arguments. I argue with Robert a lot because I'm more logical than emotional many times. So Robert and I argue a lot. Love you, Robert.
Well, it's going to be fun to see that evolve in those conversations. So what else from the content?
I think that go ahead, Jeanette.
I just, I'm getting it from page 73 from the overview. List the worst things that the other party could say about you and say them before the other person can. Performing an accusation audit in advance prepares you to head off negative dynamics before they take root. And because of these accusations often sound exaggerated when said aloud, speaking them will encourage the other person to claim that quite the opposite is true. It's interesting. You turn it back and we have these fears of what's going to be said or what's going to come out or, you know, and sometimes the people, when you're dealing at this level of negotiation, there's, you know, they're as smart as they think they are in some ways. And sometimes they've got some stuff on you too. They know who's going to come in. They know what the circumstances might be ahead of time. They've read the book. They've read the book several times, so they know what could be coming for them. And so, you know, dealing with somebody who's committing a crime, who knows the book, is interesting, but also
the fun part
not
about
being afraid
that,
of what somebody can come up about crap about you because we got crap.
Yeah, the fun part about that for me is this read the book or read the content stuff.
Mm-hmm.
How many of you have books on your bookshelf at home? Raise your hands. And how many of you have a book on the bookshelf you've never read? Keep your hand up.
Yep.
Right?
It's the idea, Russ.
So,
it's the idea.
How many have ever read this book cover to cover before now? And Camacho's going to be the only hand up. Justin is too. There's two. Okay. The odds that somebody actually has the level of knowledge that you guys do,
raise your hand,
especially after the 15 books, it's just not happening out there. You guys are a rare breed. And those that are coming in now, you're joining that where you're going to have such an extensive level of knowledge above everyone else when it comes to communication, relationships, conversations, soft skills. You're going to blow the doors on them. Doug, you had something to add.
I thought that the practice session with Anna and Mark was really outstanding because that's exactly what we get to do. We go to these listing presentations and these buyer consultations, and they're pretty much the same. I mean, the numbers are different, things like that. The reasons that they're moving are different, but it's the same scenario over and over and over. We can practice this and hone this to such a high level because we pretty much know what's coming, and we can practice the alternative answers back and forth and back and forth. So I thought that example that they took of going through every scenario and listing all the bad things that were going to come up before they came up and really getting a handle on them, put them in such a position of almost domination in the conversation. And even at the end of the conversation, the thing that I thought was so important was the other party basically repeated back what they had already figured out at the beginning. It was amazing.
Yeah, having two things. One, having the practice, which you guys should all practice in role player conversations. And if you show up 2:00 and we have 6 or more people in that room at 2, rather than going straight into call time, it'll give you guys an opportunity to practice and role play that. And then 2, being that active listener, because when you get in rapport, they'll actually give you what they want, won't they, Doug? So it's 9:30. I want to be totally in integrity on time. Couple of quick things. One, the next 2.5 days, I will not be around as much because I'm in a conference and I'm doing some flying. So this room is going to be run by Camacho and Harrington and others. Make sure you guys keep playing at a high level. 2, Jenna Lee asked about the next books. The next book is Feel the Fear, Susan Jeffers. So you can get your hands on that. And then we're working on the list. So we have at least 3 or 4 books ahead of time so you guys can get them and have it in your hot little hands. All right. And lastly, Josh.
Yes, sir.
I can't believe you didn't go to it because they were talking about the example of Ryan, this incredible negotiator, trying to get on a plane. Page 70.
I saw that. I love that.
A lot of people are trying to get to Austin for the big game. The big game? UT is playing Ole
Miss. Yeah.
Well,
I was so focused on the Auburn loss and the Alabama win. I didn't even think about it. I sent you a text, Russ. I was going to put you on the spot and make you do that video call for everybody. But since you want to keep time, I'll let you just send it to me, or you can do it now. I'll give you the option.
Hey, well, I'm going to jump now. Yet maybe later today, you and I will hook up on some because Auburn had a whole lot of fun challenges yesterday as well. So love you all. We'll see you guys back in here. Well, you guys will be back in here tomorrow. Again, call time's going to be going on 2 to 5 Central. So I'd love to get more people in there doing the work. We'll see you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.